Okay, I do believe we should be live as we speak. Let me just double check here. It looks like it is running. Just want to make sure it is. Okay. We're supposed to be live. I'm just not seeing the feed, so I just want to double check this. Oh yeah. Okay. So here we are. Perfect. Yep. So we're good to go. Hello, everybody. This is Frederic Gonzalo speaking, and I'll be the host for today's special edition on restarting air travel in the face of COVID-19. So we've got a star-studded panel here today. We're going to go around just to make sure I present everyone before we get into the action and start speaking about what we can expect with air travel. We have Lisa Pierce, Managing Director, Canada and US Sales for Air Canada. Lisa, are you there?
I'm here. Hello.
We can hear you well. Perfect. Hello, Lisa. We also have Vincent Etchebehere, General Manager, Canada for Air France-KLM. Hello, Vincent.
Hello, Frederic. Hello, everyone.
We have Joe Adamo, Chief Distribution Officer and President of Transat and President Transat Distribution Canada. Joe.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Len Corrado, VP Commercial Operations, Sunwing Airlines. Len, hello.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And we have Chuck Crowder, VP Sales and Distribution at WestJet Airlines.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a bit about the airline situation. Now, for everyone listening in today, I mean, there's a lot of ifs, right? Before we get into the discussion, as we know, Canadians are still bound to the federal non-essential travel ban. We're still being requested in many places to self-isolate for 14 days upon re-entering the country. So, despite of that all, we want to know when we can amp up the travel business, right? So, let's go right into the first question I have for you, and perhaps we can start with we'll start with Len. A lot has happened within the travel sector, right, in the last couple of months. What is your new normal, and how has air travel changed with your company at Sunwing?
Well, my personal new normal involves a whole bunch of daily conference calls with various government agencies, both locally and around the world, trending the changing regulations and processes and procedures being thrust upon us and how we're going to comply. As an organization, what we're really doing is what we're working on pivoting and spending a lot of time finding new ways to make the consumer's travel experience more seamless, more hands-off for us, give them greater confidence that we have tools, systems, processes, and procedures where they can process through an airport, not have a lot of touch points, not be in contact with surfaces, not necessarily need to interact with our customer service people one-on-one, to give them greater confidence that their safety is well cared for and well looked after, as well as our overall onboard experience, aircraft sanitization, and anything we can do to ensure that consumers are comfortable that their safety is first and foremost, as it always is.
Right. Vincent, how are things over at Air France-KLM?
Well, during this crisis, the first step that we took was to ensure repatriation flights for Canadian citizens staying in Europe to be able to go back to Canada and the other way around. We are still operating some repatriation flights from some countries, like in North Africa, like in India. We also focused on cargo with shipments of pharmaceutical products and still are. The second step that we took was to work on our schedule. So both to, let's say, lower our level of activity at the level of the demand, but at the same time, continuing to ensure bridges between the countries. And we are proud that we were the only European carriers that continued air bridge between Canada and Europe. And of course, as Len was saying, our new normal and our new future will also be, of course, a very strong focus on health and safety measures. Mm-hmm. So we just implemented, for example, temperature checks before each flight worldwide. We are also focusing a lot on our onboard flight experience and sanitization.
Right, health is obviously going to be, I guess, a topic du jour for sure. Chuck, at WestJet, how things have been in the last couple of weeks, and what's your new normal?
Yeah, thanks. We've been living this new normal since March. You know, we've seen 90% of the demand go away. And with that, we took extreme measures. Unfortunately, over 9,000 WestJetters are on leave of absence right now. And of course, near and dear to my heart is the sales and distribution team. You know, we want to be back out there really focused on developing business. But right now, we're really focused in 3 areas around liquidity, stability, recovery, but at the center of all of that is safety and security, which is paramount in getting people comfortable in traveling again. You alluded to, you know, the issues with the quarantine, the borders being closed. We need to join forces here and work with our government and agency partners to ensure that those measures are lifted when it's appropriate, so that we can get back to business and get people traveling. You know, Canadians, they want to visit friends and family, businesses want to get going. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we continue to look at our schedule on a month-by-month basis. But the one thing we did do, we kept serving all 38 Canadian markets that we did pre-COVID, because we felt it was very beneficial for WestJet to be part of the recovery within the Canadian economy to build that. And as others have talked about, we were very focused in taking cargo, repatriation flights, and the charter business as well.
That's great. Thanks, Chuck. Joe, how are things over at Transat?
So we've been grounded since April 30th. So no operations, obviously. The focus has been, it really has been one of survival, right? Taking all the necessary, difficult, but very necessary steps that I think most of us on the Zoom have had to take. But very quickly looking already to the future. It is quite heartening that in spite of, you know, all the uncertainty, I mean, we are swimming in uncertainty with regard to what is allowed and what will be allowed, and the timelines attached to that. We still see, you know, modest, but gains nevertheless, week over week in terms of bookings. And, you know, we are not operating at this time, but we do have obviously flights and packages for sale beyond the hiatus period. And there is still some activity, and this is despite essentially putting on pause any marketing or commercial activities. So, you know, the new normal is getting by with a lot fewer resources, but also really emphasizing agility and the agility to deal with all this uncertainty, to begin to plan for a future restart. So a very, very different environment, no question. Something that I hope I never have to go through, but something that will have for sure impacted all of us, I think, as leaders and managers.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about this for years and years to come, to say the least. Lisa, with Air Canada.
So the new normal, I guess if we were to take it up a level, is really the pace of change. The pace of change is incredibly rapid. The need for us to be adaptable and to be in a state of continuous improvement. And I think another big part of the new normal is all of us, not only the industry, but generally society, is the fact that there's a lot we used to take for granted, taking for granted the ability to have in-person meetings, the ability to actually visit loved ones, family, friends, and also the ability to disconnect. We're all working from home, and we really need to be able to disconnect and take a real vacation. So I think for the industry, I think it's important that we all recognize that's our purpose, is to satisfy all those needs. And it's up to all of us to find ways to capitalize that once travel really starts to take off, and always having an open mind to whatever opportunities present themselves. And we're setting ourselves up for that success.
Yeah, and I guess this segues perfectly to the next topic we want to discuss. So, I mean, there will be a restart, and we're already starting to see, I guess, elements that point towards that. Of course, the border will be a big aspect, but when restrictions will be lifted, who do we think will be the first ones to travel, and what challenges can we see in a foreseeable future? I'll start the other way around. I'll start with you, Lisa, and then we can change the way we did the circle.
Okay. Well, first, we see visiting friends and family to be one of the first things to open up, and we're very happy with the new ability that was announced yesterday at noon, where family members can actually come to Canada to visit family. So we see that coming first, domestic travel, and then hopefully transborder. So obviously, we're looking forward to the restrictions lifting there. We do, at Air Canada, we did relaunch our US service on May 22nd, and we continue to operate in all of our key international destinations. This summer, we have about 97 destinations in our schedule, which is about half of what we had last year. But we're optimistic that we'll have the demand to fill those planes, and we built the schedule based on what we're currently allowed to travel, to operate, and where we know we will be in the future. And we're looking forward, hopefully, to a good summer.
Let's hope so. Joe, how over at Transat, how do you see things starting again, and who will be the first ones to travel, you think?
So like Lisa, we definitely think that the friends and relatives, family, that cohort will be who want to travel, need to travel. We think millennials as well, who feel somewhat impervious and immune to all this, will likely be there as well. Then it's all subject to the borders, what opens and what doesn't. Like I said, we are not operating as we speak, but we're chomping at the bit to get going again. As a predominantly leisure travel company, we think we have a lot to bring to the early travelers, if you will, and are hard at work putting together a program that we think will allow us to reconcile all of these moving parts. The obvious ones: border restrictions, health concerns, insurance requirements, and a demand to travel. Time will tell what the demand is, but we definitely, our read is there is very real demand to travel. And I'd love to get into what we're doing, but that will come very soon, I hope. Very soon, I hope we will make announcements along those lines.
Well, we're all looking forward to it. I'm sure we'll be first ones to know here on PAXnews.com. Absolutely. Chuck, over at WestJet, how do you see things unfolding, and who would be the first ones to travel, you think?
Yeah, I'll take a little slightly different approach than what Lisa and Joe talked about. When we think of like corporate and business travel, we're actually seeing some upticks in small businesses, ones that are more maybe family-owned versus larger corporations that may not have all the same travel restrictions in place, but they predominantly travel within Canada. And some within those sectors, construction companies, we're seeing them because projects are getting going. As you see factories reopen, operations people need to get back out to the factories, make sure they're up and running. On the IT side as well, we're seeing some of that. Again, the visiting friends and relatives throughout Canada for summer vacations tend to be the norm. And then we are seeing where people now are starting to research and look at demand for maybe some of those more beach destinations throughout the Caribbean, Mexico. But that's later in fourth quarter of this year and first quarter of next next year.
It's interesting. I guess, Vincent, you probably also have a different approach since a lot of flights go more towards Europe. How do you see things unfolding at your end with Air France-KLM?
Well, first of all, in terms of, of schedule setting, of course, we are monitoring very closely at worldwide level the booking dynamism or redynamism. We see some positive developments. That's why we, to put things in perspective, in May, we operated 5% of our normal activity.
Wow.
So in June, we are heading to 15%. And in July, August, around 40% by the end of summer of our activity. So we see this, those moves in bookings that encourage us to reopen, and we will reopen mostly new routes, even at lower frequencies than usual. So that's one. Second, for Canada routes in particular, we are also developing again our frequencies. So we are about to operate a daily product Montreal-Paris as of 15th of June. Then 10 weekly flights still Montreal-Paris as of 6th of July, together with a resumption of Toronto-Paris route. And on KLM side, we are currently operating a daily product already on Toronto-Amsterdam, and we will reopen early July Calgary with 2 flights a week and Vancouver with 3 flights a week. In terms of customer segments that we expect on board our flights, well, right now we see quite a proportion of European citizens who lived the confinement in Canada, and when the policies and the situation are getting calmer in Europe, they are traveling back to their home in Europe, actually. This is mostly what we see in Montreal. In Toronto, for example, we already see some visit friends and relatives traffic, also some cement traffic. So per station, the situation can vary quite much.
Interesting. And finally, Len, we're at Sunwing.
Well, like our colleagues at Transat, we're currently not operating. And I would echo Joe and Lisa's comments on that first segment being family and friends, and you know, being near our loved ones. That's always going to be the major driver. But we quickly see leisure following suit. You know, by our nature, we're explorers. We're adventurers. We're social beings. We want to be out and about and exploring the world and interacting with people we care about and making new relationships. And as we come through this, I think people are going to need that. And as Joe commented, we're seeing a little bit of indicators that millennial group is going to be there ahead of everyone else. So we're encouraged by that. But we see leisure coming back, you know, in fairly short order. And we're trying to leverage our marketing programs and our pre-startup or pre-return to service processes and procedures towards that. We're doing things like reduced deposits on bookings, reduced final payments, prepaid price drop guarantees, and waiving change fees to show people, look, we're going to be here to mold and sort of support you being comfortable in traveling again.
Now, you know that folks that are watching today are with PAX News, obviously, you know, travel agents and folks from the industry. So I guess this next question would be more about how can travel agents help to get clients flying again, and how are you working with the distribution channels right now to just, you know, get this get some fire going, and obviously with the announcements that are being made and eventually, especially for Sunwing and Transat that are not operating now, but what's being done right now to entertain and also educate those folks out there. So I'll start again, perhaps with you, Len. You could tell me what's being done at your end.
You know, as Joe mentioned earlier, things are very much still in flux. You know, the unknowns are still unknown. But as we're building systems, we've got a Safe with Sunwing program going out that our marketing team has released this week, and more information coming out about that to keep the agency community and the industry aware of what we're doing to ensure the customer is confident in traveling again, and that you know, we're aware of making that message clear. As a totally vertically integrated travel company, we get the benefit of offering that comfort level or controlling that outcome through every step of the way, from the air product to the hotel transfer buses to the hotels to the excursion companies. We own those companies, and so what's happening at Sunwing will start at the doors of the airport and beyond, and go right through till you're back home, and we'll be able to give you confidence that we have your safety and health and well-being at the forefront of all we do, and you'll be able to see that transparent flow through. So that's what we're trying to message the industry about. That's what we're going to continue to message the industry about. We're also lobbying as a company and as part of the industry for consistency throughout. Airlines don't compete on safety. We compete on other things, but safety, health, security, those are foregone conclusions. So we're lobbying government and working with our partners in the industry to ensure there's consistency in as much as possible as passengers transit through airports, how the health checks occur, where they occur, so that they have some confidence in knowing what is the process, and they're not frustrated and confused by it every single day by doing something different with every carrier. So that's what we're working towards here.
True. Yeah, it's true. The health has always been, and security have always been at the forefront in the airline industry. So I guess it's a matter of just adding up to some of the processes that were in place. Vincent, with Air France-KLM, how can travel agents work and get clients flying again with your perspective?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank all our travel agents partners for their partnership in general, including in this crisis, and also thank them for their cooperation while in these unprecedented times we had to update very often, sometimes on a weekly basis, our schedules, our commercial policies, so many changes to cope with for our travel agents partners. So thank you for that. In terms of restart, at Air France-KLM, we really imagine and prepare the recovery, the resumption based on what we call the 3 S's. The first one is safety, so flight safety, which has been our priority for 80, 100 years even on the KLM side, and which will remain. The second one is sanitization. Of course, it was our responsibility before the crisis. It may be even more during and after it. The priority to put the highest standards of health and safety for our passengers, but also our staff. And we will be very glad to work together with our trade partners to reassure our common passengers on health and safety measures by airlines, but also by countries, by destinations. So far, for example, we are already working with Atout France on how to reassure and to show everything that is being done in France and show that it is a safe destination to travel to. And the last S is sustainability. This is not a new focus for Air France-KLM. We shall not forget about the crisis, the climate crisis that shall be our top priority as airlines and in general as corporations. So on this front as well, we'll be very eager to work with our travel agents, partners, in order to build more sustainable aviation for the future.
It's great. So safety, sanitization, and sustainability. 3 S's.
Correct.
Like that. Chuck, can you activate your microphone? Let me just see here. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, so we're really partnering with the agency community because they're really a natural extension of our sales force. And we owe a big thanks, all of us, to this community because this has been one of the toughest challenges that they've ever had to work for. Because each and every one of us, we're trying to do the right thing for our mutual guests. We put out book with confidence policies so that people have flexibility to change. Whether you gave vouchers or extended tickets, fee waivers, anything so that people feel comfortable in traveling in the future. As we also talked about, safety is at the forefront of all of this, and getting some consistent policies throughout the airlines and the airports, and even in the hotel and car rental industry is paramount so that people feel comfortable when getting on an airplane. We hear that people say, oh, you're doing this big safety campaign. Well, safety is never a campaign. Safety is the first thing all of us work on. It's safety above all. And we've put in several different measures, whether that be social distancing on the aircraft by blocking middle seats. That's out there. We were the first North American carrier to implement that in April. That's out there through the end of June, and we continue to look at that. Enhance safety, temperature checks, cleaning measures on board the aircraft. All of those things are paramount for people to feel that they can get up and get going. And then it's also very important to hear from our agency partners where they're seeing demand, because we want to build our schedule and build back the airline where it makes sense. And that is based on where people want to go. We've talked ad nauseum about the border reopening, quarantine measures. As those things relax, people will feel more comfortable to get up and start moving. And we just need to be ready for that demand to come back.
Very true. And it's they say in travel in general, safety will be the new marketing. But you're right. I think in the airline field, safety is not just marketing. It's at the base. It's at the core of what you do. It's
at the core of everything we do, and all my partners here on this call would say the same thing.
Absolutely. Joe, with Transat, so how are you looking at things with the distribution channels and how agents can sort of help kickstart travel?
Well, I think the three things we can do to best help our agency partners and the traveling public is number one is to be flexible on bookings. So, like a lot of us, since early March, we've introduced additional flexibility on all bookings. Now, the bookings have been relatively few and far between, although they are growing. All of those bookings benefit from additional flexibility. Second flexibility is on older bookings, shall we call them. So as we resume operations, I can confirm that we will be extremely flexible on people who booked before the pandemic as we resume our operations. Again, that sort of goodwill policy, I think we all need to bring to the table. We will do that. Thirdly, health and safety. Chuck, I think, was very articulate on this point. We too will have, and we will unveil very shortly, new protocols, all grounded in science, developed with regulators or industry bodies. We will have that as well, all along the customer journey. The fourth thing, which I guess I would suggest humbly to our agent partners, is to have the right mindset. Travel will return. It is as definitively as we have a desire to speak up and voice our indignation. The last 2 weeks have been remarkable around the world for obviously a very tragic reason, but the way people are voicing their displeasure, and some would argue at great risk given the virus, people will do what they need and feel they have to do. Our jobs will be to help them do it in as safe a manner as possible. And, let the facts and let science dictate what you say to your clients. Because at the end of the day, as borders open up, the fact is we now have community spread of this virus all over the planet. Apparently, with the exception of New Zealand, and I commend New Zealand for having eradicated this, although I have to be honest, it's just a matter of time before there is another case in New Zealand. I don't wish it upon them. The point is, where we operate, and I'll speak for Transat, there is community spread in Canada, in Europe, in the Caribbean. And if those numbers, the rate of community spread, are roughly equivalent, it is no more dangerous to visit another country than it is to go buy a bottle of wine or go to the grocery store. That's science speaking. Now, I understand hesitation. It's a normal reaction, but we need to have the right mindset that things can resume, and they will resume with the additional safety protocols that we will all implement.
Yeah, I think we all agree zero risk does not exist per se, but I think everyone is sort of looking at minimally, and how do we minimize that risk? So you're absolutely true. Good point. Lisa, from your side of things with Air Canada, how can travel agents help, and how are you working with travel agents to get things going? You're on. I think you're muted, Lisa. We can't hear you.
I am. Sorry. First, I'd like to echo what you said, Joe. This is definitely a mind shift change. I mean, it is only a matter of time, to be honest, even when there's a vaccine. So this is the situation we're in now is temporary. So we do all need to have a mind shift change with a hope to the future. Clearly, customers need to book with confidence and feel safe. So that's a #1 priority. And we're all airlines are doing that. And I think having that information available and readily available that you can share with our mutual customers obviously is very important. So take full advantage of all the content that's out there, I'm sure, from all of us. And then also staying close to what the industry is doing to standardize that, so it makes it easier for you to communicate. I know ICAO and IATA have come out with some guiding principles and endorsing the fact that we need to have industry standards that are easier to communicate. And then I guess the next piece is staying really close to what the restrictions are as they change, because they are changing by the minute and it's really hard to keep track of. And I have to say, I follow many of you on social media and I can't keep track. I find out countries are opening up from following some of your social media posts. So thanks for that. Staying close to that, really important, and sharing it and getting the word out so people know where they can go when they're ready to go and they feel safe to go. And then also, well, there's a lot of great work that's being done by many of our tourism partners that are, encouraging people to travel and appealing to that need, because as Joe mentioned, there's a will, we all have a will to do certain things, and some of us have a will to travel, and we just need to feel inspired to go, and our tourism partners have a lot of content that we can use and share. And I think it's also important that we all have content that's shareable. So whatever we have at Air Canada, we have on our website, we have videos, we have bulletins, we have PowerPoints, we have everything you could possibly need. They're all dynamically updated, so feel free to take full advantage of that. And then I guess I think it's also important that we all remember, and sometimes as Canadians, maybe we forget, but the world does love Canada, and this is our chance really to showcase our glowing hearted hospitality. So that's probably the most important thing we can all do.
Yeah, well said. And we're already well above the half hour, so I think we'll be closing off with this. But I'm just wondering, because a lot of the discussion was around health and safety protocols, and I'm wondering, after 9/11, how a lot of the stuff, the protocols that took place are now still happening. Do you think some of these new processes we're seeing in protocols will be permanent, or some of it is maybe just in the meantime? And no one's got a crystal ball here, but I'm throwing this question at whoever first one wants to answer.
I'd like to answer that. I mean, I think I said that at the beginning, is that we're always in a continual state of change. There's every day new processes, new technologies, and we're all going to adapt as they become available. And like any new thing that comes, that we have to adapt to, we get better and better at it. So I have every expectation that we'll always have safety top of mind, but we are going to adapt as new opportunities present themselves to be better at everything we do as it relates to biosecurity.
Great.
Yeah, I would agree with Lisa. A lot of these processes will stay in place, but just like after 9/11, when the security lines took hours, the process got refined, things improved, and now we don't even think about it. You think of like Nexus or Global Entry, TSA PreCheck, all these programs that evolve that are very good programs and help us travel better, smarter, and more efficient. That's what will come out of this. The travel business is very resilient, and crises like this only make us all better and stronger for the future.
Yeah, I would jump in on that and add that continuous improvement and excellence and execution that'll get drawn out from the learnings of this response will stay with us. Some of those restrictions will go away as we evolve and as it becomes our more normal. I think that the one point that I'd like to make is that the great, and having lived through 9/11 after 35 years of this, the one great recovery from 9/11 was the consistent approach driven through the whole of the carrier community. We had clear direction on what was coming when, and we were all sort of on the same page. And I think that it's important that we get that direction from government and proceed down that road with this crisis as well.
Yeah, interesting.
That's a good point, Len. I think many of us are sometimes criticized because we do things differently. You know, in the absence of one path to follow, you know, we all do the best we can, you know, given what IATA, what ICAO, and what other regulatory bodies say. ICAO and IATA are not regulatory bodies. We do the best we can, and that puts a burden, obviously, on agent partners to follow what we're doing or what we will announce, what Air Canada, WestJet, and so on. So that's a tough one. And I think, if anything, we will all converge toward a new standard, Fred. I think that's the point, that what we're seeing now in the ramp-up phase will evolve, and I think it will converge towards a new standard. You know, time will tell what remains, but certainly some things will be permanent. And frankly, I think having better hygiene habits is not a bad thing. You know, even once we have a vaccine, nothing wrong with people being a little cleaner and a little more considerate of their fellow travelers. It'll be interesting to see how quickly, though, we converge towards some new standard.
Yeah, I agree with everything my fellow partners said. I am convinced that those measures will stay, the health and safety standards and measures, for two reasons. First of all, because it will be at the core, it will be one of the pillars of customer needs tomorrow and expectations, and also simply because it's our responsibility as airlines to guarantee, again, the highest standard of protection and health for our customers and our staff. And there, to echo what Lisa was saying, I think the role of institutions like ICAO, which are based in Montreal, is really key in order to ensure uniformization, harmonization of the rules among states, among airlines, which will make things much more legible, clear for our customers that we have to reassure together and take care of, but also for our travel agent partners.
That's great. So folks, that is all the time we had today. We're well above the 35-minute mark. So I thank you for the time. We did say before we got on air live that we're saying we're doing this through Zoom, but of course, this is only because we're forced to do so. We prefer to do it in person. However, it was for today, it was easier to do it that way, but we do wish for air travel to return sooner the better for all of us involved, not only here on the call, but also folks listening and in general for our sake as Canadian consumers. We need to get out there and travel a bit. So thanks, everyone. And final note, you could just say a quick hello and we'll be resuming, we'll be ending actually today's call. So thanks again for being here. Len, thank you for being there.
Thank you for having us.
Chuck, Vincent, Lisa, and Joe, thank you very much, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Stay well.